Folks, I have 15 minutes to help you get on the road to being media superstars. So if you would, please turn to that section in your book with my material. It's either in the P section or Paul. First thing I'm going to do is tell you why every single one of you should have an interest in getting into the media. Every single one of you. The second thing I'm going to do is tell you exactly how I've used the media. And the third thing I'm going to do is the most important. I'm going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to take what I have done, I'm going to translate it into what every one of you can use. And in fact, I've heard things already that just made me squirm around. There are some great media opportunities here. Why should you be interested in the media? Number one, can anyone take a guess on how much it costs for a full page in Forbes magazine? Forbes magazine, a full page. What do you think? How much? Oh, what a bargain. Much closer to 80. Yeah, it's much closer to 80. You can get 2 pages for about $100,000 or $150,000. I got a discount. I can get a discount. I got 2 full pages in Forbes magazine for 15 cents. 2 full pages talking about nothing but me. Me. That's it. What does that translate into? It talks about what I have to sell. 2 full pages in Forbes magazine. Not only did I get 2 full pages, this led to at least 100 other media interviews, because the media people read these things. They're saying, 2 pages in Forbes magazine. Jimmy Carter gets about a paragraph. This guy gets 2 pages. Call him up, interview him. Here's half a page in Changing Times magazine. Here's a full page in New Jersey magazine. I was one of those people of the month. Great. How much would it cost for this so far? Here is a full page in the Montgomery Times. Here's another full page in the Bismarck Tribune. Here's a full page in, let's see, this is the Daily Herald. These are all media pieces that I've had published recently. You know why I brought these in? Because I couldn't carry the rest. There are file drawers full of these, folks. File drawers. On the sheets that you have, it says very clearly, media publicity is far more powerful than advertising and much cheaper. By any standard, I make a very comfortable living. Last year, my advertising bill was $785. I went $85 over what I had budgeted. The marketing and advertising people, I'm sure, are shrieking. They're saying, you can't do this. You can't exist on media. You've got to have advertising. You should have this percentage of your income into advertising. You know, you're probably right. I probably would have made more money if I put more money into advertising. Media has been so good to me, I'm giving them all my money. For every $1,000 that you spend on an ad, I get 7,000 media releases out. 7,000 for every $1,000 you spent. So, the people here that advertised right on the back page, here, Shot. I don't know who they are. Shot paid $80,000 for this page. It's an ad. I don't have a clue of what they're selling. Here I am 2 pages later giving you intimate details about me for free. This cost me 15 cents. That's it. How does this help you out? I want to tell you specifically several of the cases that I've done. I want to translate it into what you've done. I'm sure that you've heard, as I understand you've heard, that in 1 hour of work I made $400,000. I'm going to tell you specifically how I did that. I had been playing around with media releases since I was a kid, since I was 15 or 16, having no clue of what I could do. Rule number 1 about learning how to get into the media: don't read any books on it. I made the mistake of reading the books that were out there. They set me back a lot, not only in time, but in money. The reason is, if you're in the stock market at all, what is the worst stock tip you can get? The one you just read in the paper. Why? Because everybody else read the thing. If you read this publicity book, everybody will write a press release like that. Everybody will approach the media like that, and they'll throw them out. That set me back thousands of dollars and several years. And then I started getting the key to how this whole thing works. In 1983, 11 years ago, my big break came. I was watching TV, and on the news, I saw a gentleman being interviewed about the renovations that were being done to the Brooklyn Bridge. Behind him was this interviewer must have heard me, because the interviewer said, I noticed that you're standing in front of a pile of wood. What's the wood for? And the guy said, well, that's what we're taking off. Why? There was a nuclear explosion in my brain. And he said, oh, yeah. Not only will I get money for this wood, I don't have to throw it out. Great. I sent some friends over there to pick 20 minutes to write. In the next, and on that certificate, I attached a piece of what I knew I was getting, the Brooklyn Bridge. Within an hour, I had this press release. I was printing them up, and they were sent out the next morning. I did no more than 1 hour of work. The media were knocking on the door. For weeks and weeks and weeks, I was getting interview after interview from CBS, ABC, NBC, CNN, the BBC sent a film crew over. Radio Peru sent a crew. Radio Peru, I was just things with the antenna on top. It was one of those 18-wheeler things. I was living in a 3-family house at the time. They're running cables up and down. I lived on the 3rd floor. There are cables coming up and down, news people, microphones, everything. My neighbors didn't even bat an eyelash. I was astounded. So I was talking to the girl, jacket over my head, lead me out to the back of your car, put me in the back seat and slam it and drive away and see if they'll get interested in that. Nothing, right over their head, like CNN comes every day. Every 30 minutes for 3 full days, 24 hours a day, CNN ran this interview about the Brooklyn Bridge. For 6 solid months, the media actually was driving me nuts. At the end of 6 months, I just had to leave the country for 2 weeks. One person knew where I was, and that was it. Because the media they were showing up where I worked, driving me crazy. Yeah, broke my heart. Broke my bank account, too, which was at the end of every interview, there was the phone number. How does this translate into you? What can you do? This woman right here, you with the voiceovers. When I heard this, I mean, you have a screaming press release there. And I'm just going to make this up. I'll say you're from New Jersey. I don't know. New Jersey woman speaks 5 words, receives a check for $22,000. Ah, the media's going to go nuts. They're going to call you up. And right in the first line it says, Carolyn Jones of Bedminster, New Jersey, spoke 5 words, was handed a check for $22,000 and went to the bank. Oh, the media people are going to drive you crazy. They're going to want to know what you have to say. And then you'll follow it up. So if you follow along with the sheets, that number 1, publicity is far, far, far more powerful than advertising. It is much cheaper. Why? Because advertising, by its very nature, is negative. People think you're trying to sell something. So they look at an ad and they say, what is this guy trying to sell me? So you're in a negative position already. You've got to just get up to 0 to break even. I start in a positive position because these people, the halo effect says, geez, this guy must be a little angel since they're reporting about him. I'm way ahead of anybody advertising. Up at the top it says, in order to get free publicity, you must either be controversial, have a pet rock, solve a problem, or be a nut. I have done or been all 4. You have the capability to do or be all 4. Be a nut is not necessarily a negative. Nuts get lots of press coverage. There is not a product, service, cause, or issue that cannot receive tremendous coverage. I don't care if you're selling mortgage services, if you're selling voiceovers, tennis shoes, radio antennas, pest control, I don't care. You can become a nationwide media celebrity very quickly and very inexpensively. What's next? You have to make sure you get a high-quality list of media sources. How do you do that? There are several directories available to you. One is called Bacon's, like bacon and egg, B-A-C-O-N. Bacon's Publicity Checker. There is another one called Gebby, G-E-B-B-E, Gebby All-in-One. Gebby All-in-One. They're good. They're excellent. Problems are, there are 2 problems with directories. Number 1, you have to take the information from the directory and do something with it. And number 2, the directories are relatively expensive. I think Bacon's is about $700 or so. Gebby's is far less thorough. That's a few $100s. I'm not sure what their latest price is. But the jackpot came recently when the computer age took over this whole thing, and right now, on these 2 discs, this drives me wild. I mean, this drives me insane. I'm going to tell you a story about how this works. Right here, 10,000 of the hottest media contacts in the nation on these 2 discs. That's it. I've heard over and over again people say, well, I don't want to learn how to use a computer. You know, I'm going to hire somebody to use a computer. That's not for me. I should spend my time creating. Yeah, nonsense. That's like saying you've got a great car, but you're not going to get a license or learn how to drive. You're going to hire a driver. Great. Next time you have an emergency, you call up your driver and say, get over here real quickly. I'll blow your doors away with this. You sit there and say, well, I'm not going to learn how to use a computer. I'll hire somebody to use these discs. Good. Let me give you an example and a story. A couple of years ago, I was listening to the radio, and by the way, that is step number 1 for you if you want to create a media release. Listen to the news. Listen to that news. Your releases are right there in the news. I was listening to the news, and I heard a story about Mike Tyson in prison. He was being disciplined for autographing a few things for prisoners. I am the nation's leading expert on the value and the authenticity of autographs and rare documents. There it was right there. This was 7 a.m., by the way. I'm going to give you an exact timeline. Very accurate. At 7 a.m., I heard the story, and I knew that was my hook right there. And if you'll turn to the next page in your handouts, you see the headline, Tyson's jailhouse autographs are worth a bundle. At 7:05 a.m., I sat at my computer, and I wrote that press release. By 7:25 a.m., I was done with the release. I had these in my computer already. I simply then said, computer, sort out the radio talk shows that are 25,000 watts or more, because I wanted power. Sort them out across the nation. In about 30 seconds, the computer told me, okay, I'm ready. I have 930 of them. Good. And then I pressed one button, and I said, fax this to all of them. I have a little modem on there. If you're not familiar with computers, get familiar with them. I have a little modem. I pressed one button, and it said fax. Fax it to all of them. At 7:30 a.m. this is. 7:30 a.m. I have two phones. Phone starts ringing. It's the radio stations. They want me on the show right now. Think of this power. At 7 o'clock, their station broadcast this story. Tyson is being reprimanded for autographing. At 7:30 a.m., 30 minutes later, I now have this press release that says, I have another side to this story, folks. That day, I didn't get off the phone. I did interviews all that day and all that week. I did at least 100 interviews that week alone. That day, I think I did about 45 or 50 interviews. Some of them were 5 and 10 minutes. Some of them were an hour. The hours I really didn't want. I wanted more exposure, not long exposure. So what are you going to do? You're going to make sure that you have one of the four that I list there. Either be controversial, have a pet rock. The Brooklyn Bridge is the pet rock. Solve a problem. I solved the problem there, actually. People have autographs. They want to know what they're worth. Not only did I get tremendous coverage that week, for months later, people were calling me up saying, you know, you were a great interview there. I understand you know autograph values. Do you want to do an hour talk show, call-in show? Nah. You're going to give me an hour of your time for free? No, I wouldn't want that, would I? Over and over and over again. I don't care what you sell. I don't care what your service is. I don't care how arcane, how bizarre you think it is. I don't care how small you think your market is. It's very simple to get this as long as you know what you're doing. Learn how to write a killer press release or hire someone to do it. Use the who cares style of writing. When I talk to people, invariably I say, give me your idea of a good press release. And this person may say, well, I have a great press release. The Johnson Company increased their revenues by 50% this year. Who cares? We provide services. We provide mortgage services to inner city residents. Who cares? Who cares? And keep doing this over and over again. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Let's see now. Brooklyn Bridge sold by New Jersey man for $14.95. Want to buy the Brooklyn Bridge? Who has not heard that joke somewhere? Want to buy the Brooklyn Bridge? And in fact, right in there I say that. The greatest joke in the world. Want to buy the Brooklyn Bridge? Good. Now you can, and you can give it as a gift. Who cares? Make sure that your headline grabs people by the throat, and it doesn't just come over to you and say, you know, I have this wonderful little headline. Would you please read this? It comes up to you and it says, call me right now. Call me, call me. That's what your press release has got to say. Call me now. Don't call me tomorrow because I know you're not going to call me tomorrow. Call me right now. It is very rare that I send out a press release and somebody calls me a day later or a week or a month later. They call me right now. I want the coverage right now. That's what you have to do. Look at the headlines here. Look at the next headline. Clinton's is worth $50, Bush's $75, but Hitler's is worth $1,000 and Columbus's $1 million. Oh, man, they just went nuts. They were tap dancing over this one. This was during the campaign, the last presidential campaign. And then I covered myself with the next press release. It says, Clinton's autograph skyrockets, Bush's autographs nosedive. Now, to tell you the truth, I had two ready. What did the other release say? Bush's autograph skyrockets, Clinton nosedives. All I did was sit there election evening and wait. As soon as ABC, and I think they were the first one, as soon as ABC said, Clinton's declared the winner, zap, I pressed that one button on the computer, all over the country, this fax was going out. What do you think happened to my phone the next day? They were going insane. Because what were they going to have to do the next day? They were going to have to say, well, Bill Clinton won Missouri, Mississippi. They want a different story. Here it is. Clinton's autograph skyrockets. You, every single one of you, can do the exact same thing. Somebody in here, in fact, probably several somebodies are saying, yeah, but you don't know my service. Yeah. A service is a service. A product is a product. If it looks like a duck and it acts like a duck, it's a duck. That's it. When I was a kid, I met a guy who was probably in his 50s. He bought a company that sold fishing nets and made fishing nets. And I said, Jim, what do you know about fishing nets? He said, I don't know anything about fishing nets, but I know everything about business. Business is business. I don't care what you're selling. It's all the same. I don't care what you are promoting, what your product or service is. It's all the same. The media is very willing to make you as wealthy and as famous as you'd like if you just learn how to romance them. That's it. That's what they want. Moving down. Fax your release as often as possible. Fax it. They want it immediately. Immediately. Mail. If you don't have a fax machine, you'll get some press coverage. But that fax machine, it's so exciting to have your fax machine faxing these things out on one phone and the media calling on the other. That's exciting stuff. That is real exciting stuff. Make outrageous claims that you can back up. And in fact, if you will go to your next press release there, in 1991, I wrote a book called How to Be Outrageously Successful with the Opposite Sex. I wanted lots of great promotion on this. That's what got me on the Donahue Show. Thanks to Carl Galletti, by the way, who called me up and said, you know, I have another client who has a book in the same arena as yours. He's going to be on the Donahue Show. So certainly I called up the Donahue, I hung up from Carl, called the Donahue Show, and to make a long story short, I was on the Donahue Show. Also, thank you, Carl. The next press release says, this is preposterous. I can help anyone find the love of their life in 90 days or less. Folks, I'm going to tell you that that is not true. It does not take me 90 days. It takes me about 9 days. But the truth of the matter is, people won't believe it if I said 9 days. The title of this talk is How to Get $1 Million Worth of Free Publicity. That's not the truth either. Actually, it's about $6 million, but you wouldn't believe $6 million, so I had to cut it down. I can help anybody find the love of their life in about 9 days or less. I faxed this out. When did I fax it? Valentine's Day. What did I head it? Here's a great Valentine's Day story. That went to newspapers. To the ones that I faxed to the radio shows, it said, here's a great Valentine's Day, or here's your Valentine's Day show. I can help anyone find the love of their life in 90 days or less. I had two groups of media people. The media people that said, oh, this is a great story, we got to get this going. And the other side that loves to shoot people down. These people were saying, I'm going to chew this guy up and spit him out. Those are the people that I love, because the ones that say, we want you because we think you can do what you're doing, well, you know I can do it, I know I can do it, what's exciting about that? But then I get somebody that calls up and says, oh yeah, listen here, hotshot, I've been a news reporter for 56 years. I've seen people like you come and go. I'm going to chew you up and spit you out nationwide. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Just make sure you do it nationwide. You sure? This is nationwide. Yes. And then at the end, I have the guys going, he did it. Oh, thank you. Those are the people that write you the reference letters later saying, I thought this guy was the biggest snake oil salesman on earth. In front of nationwide TV, he did it. This guy works miracles. Excuse me, he works what? Miracles. Thank you. Moving on, the media will go insane. Next year, I'm sure that I'll make more money than I did this year. I cut my advertising budget. I went over this year, $735. Next year, my advertising limit's $500. That's it. The media has been so kind to me. I will continue to be kind to them. The last couple of things that I have to say, I have to leave at 1:45, so if you have questions, please feel free. I think we're going to take a break before I leave. No? Okay. If you do have questions, I'll help you with any questions you need. Right after this Valentine's Day story, you'll see two other sheets of paper. These sheets of paper should always, always, always go with anything that you send to the press. You may not necessarily fax all 3 pages, although I do. You fax the first page, but you always need the second sheet, which is your bio and fact sheet, written in the who cares style. Who cares? If you look at every sentence here, Paul Hartunian is recognized as the nation's leading expert on dating and relationships. You may say, who cares? But think about the media people. They care. They don't want some little clown saying, I'm here. Okay, good. That's a good who cares. Always write with a who cares. And then the third page, this is rarely sent out. This is the sign of a media pro. I'm not saying that I'm a media pro. I'm saying that's what the media says. This guy knows what he's doing. He's sending us a list of suggested questions. Why did I send that? Number one, I want to look like a media pro. Number two, I want to make life much easier for the reporter or the interviewer and me. I already set them up with the questions. I know the answers. Life is a breeze for both of us. They go down the list, and I'll tell you 98% of these people just go right down the list. They say, well, what does it mean to be outrageously successful with the opposite sex? The ones in these little 500-watt stations that are running on batteries go, well, what does it mean to be outrageously... good. Yeah. But ABC Radio will say, I have a lot of questions that I know our listeners are going to want to know the answers to. What does it mean to be outrageously successful with the opposite sex? And in my mind, I'm saying, I'll bet you I know the second question you're going to ask. I'll bet you it's going to be, why is your method so successful? And he said, oh, that was a good answer to the first question. Why is your method so successful? Yes, got it. Good. Notice what I'm leading to. What is the last question on that list? How can people get your book? And I also put the 800 number in case the interviewer, in case we're on the air, by the way, and the interviewer says, geez, I had that number around here somewhere. Yeah, it's right in front of you, right in front of you. Some of you may say, I can't do radio, I can't do TV, I'm too shy. In fact, Paul, I couldn't do what you're doing right now, standing up in front of us and talk. You don't have to. You can do newspaper, you can do newsletter, magazines. If you're doing a newspaper interview, for example, it's as simple as you sitting down with a potential client, telling them what you have to offer. It's that simple. If you are going to do radio, I suggest that you start in these little jerkwater towns with the 10-watt stations. If you bomb, who cares? You know, the signal went down the block, and that's it. That is it. Start with these little towns. 10 watts. I mean, literally 10 watts. You'll see it in the directory, and you'll see it on these discs. By the way, those discs, $150. Oh, God. There's information, right? In fact, the next page, I think, has information. It's in Mac or PC format. I also have this great image. You see these wacko things in the Inquirer, and even in the USA Today, they have that column of real wacko stories. I can just see this guy in the Yukon Territory who hasn't seen a human being in 6 months with a computer and this fax modem and these discs, faxing out these insane releases and people picking them up. I mean, you can fax anything. The power is absolutely astonishing. Don't think for a second you can't do it. Once you start in these little 10-watt stations, and you either bomb or you don't, it's like anything else. If you do well, good, go to 100 watts, then 500 watts, and pretty soon you're up to 50,000 watts in no time at all. So you bombed in the 10-watt. Nobody heard you anyway. The proof? Give out your phone number in a 10-watt station, see who calls. Nobody. In fact, on the 10-watt station, say, to the first 50 people that call, I'll send a $10 bill. Nobody calls. Nobody listens. This is great proving ground for you. If you bomb, figure out why you bombed, and you almost certainly bombed simply because you were nervous, that's all. So do another 10 watt, and another 10 watt, and another 10 watt. And then you're real calm. In fact, you're getting a little annoyed at the interviewer. That's your signal to move up to 1,000 watts. When you're sitting here saying, you are a lousy interviewer. Ooh, geez. This comes from somebody who was sitting on the other end of the phone 2 weeks ago going, you're interviewing me, I don't know. You'll calm down. Keep going bigger and bigger. I would say within a month, 2 months, you're easily at 10 to 20,000 watt stations, and you get a pretty good listenership there. Make sure that you have something to give away. You must have something to give away. Never, ever, never, never sell anything directly during your interview. Never. So I would never say, well, I sell this book here, da-da-da. Forget it. Forget it. Tell the people the information that you're giving in the book. Always have something. One of the best things you can do is have something printed that you can give away, and always have them send a self-addressed stamped envelope. Why do you want to do that? Number one, you want committed people. I don't believe in giving anything away for free. I will not give anybody anything for free. I will at least make you send me a self-addressed stamped envelope. Otherwise, if they were to call, and God knows, don't give out an 800 number, you'll have everybody on earth calling for this free thing on your 800 number. Forget it. Have them send you a self-addressed stamped envelope that's showing qualification and commitment. What do I send? For example, when I do the press releases on the autographs, I send out a 4-page little booklet. It's called The Guide to Profitably Buying, Selling, and Collecting Autographs. And at the very end, I make a pitch for a book I wrote. That's all. And they're getting real solid information. 3 9/10 pages of that is solid, hard information. And that's what you should do. Give them solid, hard information. Tell them how to get into voiceover business. Tell them how to get your mortgage services. Tell them about mortgages. What's the difference? What are these mortgages that are variable? What is it? Tell them that. And at the very end, a little soft sell. Let them understand that you're the expert. But if they sent away for your mortgage report, for example, and it said, well, at Champion Mortgage, we do this, you just, number one, really infuriated this person because they wasted their time, their stamp, and their envelope on what they were doing, and they will never call you up because you sold them. Same thing with your voiceover services. Never sell them on your services. Tell them how to get into the voiceover business. I've done voiceovers. I know that you can't tell me anything in a report that's going to get me going, in a 4-page report. I need more than that. But I have great feelings for you because you sent me something for free. It was solid information. I'm going to call you up for more information. That's my 15-plus minutes. I want to get you started on the road to media coverage. The opportunities are absolutely staggering. If you do have questions, Mitch, I'm not sure how you want to handle it. Yeah? Questions? Any questions that you have on how to do this? Yes?
Even in the financial planning business, I mean, we got a lot of compliance things, so we can't exactly go out and be nuts, so to speak.
Yeah.
What types of releases can we get into without treading into that shark-infested water?
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, too, because I heard that you were in the financial world. And, boy, that's one of the biggest who cares worlds. When you go to people, 99.99999% of them either say who cares or they fall asleep. But they need what you have. They clearly need what you have. So what you're going to do is find something for the everyman. I always say the guy that listens to country music and eats Burger King food and thinks it's gourmet, you know, these are the people you talk to right away. You know something already. What you're not going to talk about, for example, is, let's say, estate planning. Who cares? I don't want to die, number one, and I couldn't care less who gets my stuff. Estate planning. What you're going to do, and what every one of you should do, for the next week, listen to the radio. And by the way, I will never be appointed ambassador to anywhere. I am not a diplomat, that's for sure. I cut to the chase. Every one of you, listen to the radio news. Don't watch the TV news. It wastes your time. Listen to the radio news as you're driving somewhere and ask yourself, do I know an answer to that question? Can I make an issue out of this? So what I suggest you do is listen to the radio news. In the last week, there have probably been a dozen opportunities for you. Financial, everyday financial stuff, household finances. I'll make something up now. This is not true. Let's say Bill Clinton was going to increase some specific tax, and you knew, geez, unusual, yeah, that's right. I guess this is not fictitious, is it? You knew a way around that tax. It may take some sophisticated planning, but you know a way. Let's say it was the self-employment tax. He was going to raise that. Your press release simply says, guaranteed way of avoiding Clinton's self-employment tax hike. That doesn't talk directly to what you're doing, but we do want to bring it in. In fact, if I can just switch over to Mitch, because I'm very familiar with this, and we actually did this. Over our breakfast meeting, we were talking about how he could get press coverage. He's not all that far off from you. He's not financial, but he's in the business world. So I said, Mitch, tell me what you think would be some good hooks, some good media hooks. And he started saying what 100% of the people, not 99, 100% of the people that I talked to start saying. He started telling me features about his business. He said, well, we have helped a number of businesses grow in size. And I said, Mitch, who cares? And he was like, who cares? Tell me something else. We've grown. Who cares, Mitch? Who cares? Come on. I have things to do. Who cares? Tell me more. Who cares? Who cares? Would it take us 2 or 3 minutes? And I finally, in fact, Patty was there too, and Patty may have brought it up. I found out that Mitch is a single father. I said, oh, this sounds like it's working so far. Who knows how to teach single parents to get into businesses that will give them far more income that they need to cover all these extra bills that I, as a single person, don't have, as married people have, all the other, without getting into gruesome details, all the other bills that he has. What a hook this is. Number one, he is a single parent. He's an authority. Number two, he knows how to start businesses. People out there, day and night, are saying, how do I cover these payments for the kids, for the alimony, the support, for the medical bills, for this, that? Mitch is going to tell them how to do it. That's the hook. You can do the same thing with your financial service. Get some hook for the common person, everybody. Filter them out. Mitch then said, but wait a minute, I don't want to do business with these everyday folks. I only want to do business with, and I'll just make this up, CEOs of Fortune 200 companies. And I won't come up with the same response, but the response basically was, don't disillusion yourself or this whole situation. The guy who is in the business suit and earns $6 million a year and is behind this huge desk is the same guy who goes home and watches Beavis and Butthead. Don't think he's any different than anybody else here. He is not different. So these same people, you're talking about some common, everyday financial thing that you know. It's just so easy to you, but they don't know. And you're saying, but I only want to deal with people with assets of $3 million or more. Those people are going to be reading you, and they'll call you. The other people may call you, and you'll give them some literature or something, but you won't follow up. But the $3 million people are going to read you and call you or write to you. Hit as much as you can. Don't necessarily target your market and with PR. Hit the nation. Other questions? Yeah. Great point. In fact, let me add a question or add a point to that. The media people know the deal. You say it out loud, but you both know it. You say, okay, I'll do your interview, but would you have a problem with me giving out a phone number? And they'll say, no problem at all. They know. In fact, many of them will say, what do you have to pitch? How can we help you? It's often up to the host. If I don't get a quote-unquote plug, and I hate to use the word plug because it gives you the wrong idea, but if I don't get information out to these people, I'll set up the information. So let's say I'm doing a show on the autograph book that I wrote, and you call me and you say, I have an autograph of Thomas Edison, what is it worth? I will say, and this is a setup here, I'll say, well, if it's genuine, it's worth about $300. And what would your follow-up question probably be, based on what I just asked you? How do I tell it's genuine? I will then say, well, just send a self-addressed stamped envelope to the address we're going to give in a minute, and I'll send you this free booklet. So what does the host now have to do?
Yeah.
Don't think, by the way, that you cornered this host. All you really did was remind him, that's all, or her. You just say, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to give out your address. 100% of the time they'll say, why don't you give out the address right now? You're talking about hard information. You're not pitching your services, your product. What's your product or service? Oh, gee. I mean, the media can go nuts over that. Absolutely nuts. You will not sit here and say, can I have a copy of that? You will not sit here and say, well, in my book, what are your goals? I say this, and my book is available in bookstores. What are your goals? Somebody will say, I have a problem getting up in the morning at 7 o'clock setting goals. Don't, and this is where a lot of people go wrong. They say, well, always plug your book. No, say, when you get up, do this, do this, do this. You want them to hang up saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. You don't want them hanging up saying, God, this is a guy want me to buy his book? I mean, he beat me to death with the book. At the end, every once in a while, mention your book. Subtle, real subtle. Any other quick questions? We're about to wrap up. Yes?
Media, Pulitzer Prize, before they get Pulitzer Prizes, they're doing the kind of stories that most people don't want to see in the paper.
Yeah.
Fortune 500 companies have huge PR deposits
Yeah.
who are designed to keep their senior executives out of the newspapers.
Yeah.
Now, how do you deal with the risk of not knowing where the employees are going to come from or what you're going to do if you have to take in a situation?
Yeah, the great thing with Pulitzer Prize winners is they get this little trophy and I get money. You keep your trophy, I'll keep my money. All we have to do is look at your individual, and there are always favorable sides. Always look at the good guy or the good girl side. There's something good there. I'm using champion because I'm just familiar, and I just say, for example, if you were talking about this inner city, you're not going to say, we provide money to the inner city. Now, who cares? But you're going to put the good glow on that so that you build up so much good glow that if a bad story comes by, they say, you know, we heard so much good stuff about this guy. This bad story must be wrong. So make sure you have a good foundation. I think that's about it. We're out of time. I will be here until 1:45, then I've got to go. One last little thing that I have available. After this whole Brooklyn Bridge thing came down, I had these little cards made. My headline said, Abraham Lincoln's Law Office sold for $1. And I was selling this is really Abraham Lincoln's Law Office. The media went nuts. Thousands and thousands of requests for these. My name and number on here. You're certainly welcome to take one. Thank you, folks.